And the reason we are hearing some tango is because with this presentation, we're gonna go down to South America, okay? And I will explain you why. And here we have a tango little artwork from, you can pass, everything I give you, you can go ahead and pass. And the title of my presentation is An Active Teaching and Learning Approach to Uruguayan Theater, Migration and Dictatorship in the Place of Dino Armas. I start with those two quotes. And the quotes are, mi corazón, I'm going to read them in English and in Spanish. Mi corazón está mirando al sur y en mi memoria hay un desfile de recuerdos. My heart is facing south, and in my mind there's a parade of memories. And the reason I start with that quote is because that's exactly the way I feel. And that's why I have chosen this topic of Dino Armas, who is a friend of mine and a playwright, to write about. Because I want to write about him, I want to write about his plays, and his plays are or represent Uruguay in many ways. And the other quote is, El Sur también existe, the South also exists, by Mario Benedetti. Mario Benedetti is one of our main, best-known writers. And Nestor Suarez, the one who, I didn't mention him, the one who wrote the one for the first quote, he is a thinker and has very nice quotes. Now, look at South America there, the other way around, because that's the way sometimes we want to think that, you know what, let's see things from a different perspective. No, from a different perspective. What if north was south and south was north, and maybe our north is different from your north? And then it says, porque en realidad nuestro norte es el sur, because in reality our north is the south. And that is Joaquín Torres Garcia, one of our best known artists. Okay, now my presentation has this outline, and I'm gonna give you this to get one, please, and pass. And the parts of the presentation are, first I'm gonna talk about my objective, then I'm gonna talk about who Dino Armas is. I'm going to give you my book review and outline this about the book that I'm writing. And then I'm going to talk specifically about two plays. This plays written by Dino Armas. There's many in the book that I am writing, but there's two specific ones that we're going to be talking about today. And the names of these are Juan y María Ayer, but in Spanish from my country is Juan y María Ayer. Juan y María Ayer, Juan y María hoy. Juan and Maria yesterday, Juan and Maria today, and I'm going to give you the plot. And then we're going to see some active and teaching techniques that we can use to teach this place. Okay, in this case, since we want to make sure we all know what active teaching and learning is, we're going to go over those concepts a little bit, and then I'm going to give you an activity sampler of some activities that I thought we could use specifically for this play. Okay, and then we're going to have some conclusions and comments. Okay, so my objective today is to share my book project about the renowned Uruguayan writer Dino Armas. And to demonstrate how a short play by Dino Armas can be taught using an active teaching and learning setting. My book that I'm writing right now will be entitled, in Spanish, Un acercamiento al teatro uruguayo, migración y dictadura en la obra de Dino Armas. In English, Approaching Uruguayan Theater, Migration and Dictatorship in the Place of Dino Armas. The objective will be that the first volume will be in Spanish, and the second volume will be in English. Will be exactly the same book translated to English. Okay, now who is Dino Armas? There you have him with me, okay, Dino Armas right there. And of course you see my little country, Uruguay, over there, and the flag of Uruguay. Here I have brought some other things for you to see. Here's the flag of my country, Uruguay. Okay, Dino Armas was born in the humble neighborhood of Cerro de Montevideo. What you see there, Cerro means hill. okay? And Cerro is the largest, the tallest, the highest hill in Montevideo. It's not very high at all. It's not very tall at all, but it's the highest we have in Montevideo. So he was born there, and it's a symbol. Cerro de Montevideo is a symbol of Montevideo and of Uruguay. He was born in that very humble neighborhood of Montevideo, and it was there where he started to get interested in theater. Because what happened with Dino Armas is that he was very sick during his childhood. He had asthma, and very severe, very, very severe asthma. So he didn't go out to do the things that kids in Uruguay do, boys in Uruguay do, and that is play soccer all the time. Soccer, soccer, soccer. He couldn't do it because he was always sick. He was always either in bed or he was taking medicines, and then he stayed in bed, or he stayed home, or he watched movies, and he started to read. So he became introspective, and he became also, he told me, an observer of the neighborhood, an observer of the people, and all that is what eventually made him go into writing, right? So he never forgets those beginnings, those humble beginnings in Cerro. And Cerro de Montevideo neighborhood appears in his plays, like we're gonna see in a little bit. So again, who is Dino Armas? We continue. He's a playwright. And he started writing, his first play was in 1965. And he was reading Tennessee Williams then. And he was so enthusiastic, and he loved this Tennessee Williams, and he wrote his first play that he says, I think that I borrowed a lot from Tennessee Williams, but he ended up getting a prize for his first play. And it was called something like In a Last and Ardent Summer. And he says, even the title, he says, it's like almost like a Tennessee Williams type of title. So that's how he started. And he's also a teacher. And he's a teacher who started teaching without really being so interested in teaching. It was a little bit by accident. His father wanted him to be an architect. He drew very well. He knew how to draw excellently. So his father said, you're going to be an architect. That's the way it was back then in Uruguay. That's the way it was kind of when I was a teenager as well. You're going to do this. And you did it. And you're going to learn English. My mother said, I learned it. And so the father said, you're going to be an architect. He was doing well in all the subject matters except math. So he was doing very badly in math. He had to drop out. And then he said, I'm already old enough that I want to go into a profession that I can just get a degree and start working right away. And then what he did was go into the profession of being a teacher. He became a teacher. He started without having that desire, or that he felt it was not his calling at first. But then, little by little, he started to love what he was doing. He also taught in Cerro de Montevideo to those same kids of very humble background. He helped them, not just teaching, but he helped them in other ways as a counselor. And when I asked him in the interview that you see me there, in the interview that I did with Dino Armas in Montevideo in last year, he said, and I wrote it over there, teaching is acting and writing is teaching. So he did find that connection, and for him it was wonderful finally to be both a teacher and a playwright. He also was a school principal. He also was a screenwriter. He wrote he wrote for several little movies, and a theater director, although he was not a theater director, never of his plays, because he says his plays are for him to be a father that lets go. He says, I write my plays, I let go. I let other people direct them, other people act them, other people interpret them. And if I am a director, I'm going to be kind of like interpreting them. So he says, mine, I'm like a bad father, he says. I just let go too soon, and they can do with my plays whatever they want. But he did direct He did direct other plays of other playwrights. He also is an actor, and he was in several plays as well as an actor. And most importantly of all, last but definitely not least, he is a very good friend. I met Dino Armas in 1996. I had, back then I was teaching at Wingate University in North Carolina, and I got a grant to, the topic was Uruguayan theater. So he was one of the many authors that I worked with, but the other authors, the other playwrights I met, I interviewed, but Dino Armas, there was a connection with him, and we became friends, and that's it. Almost 20 years later, I'm still working on his work. Now, Dino Armas's plays deal with everyday life issues and challenges of the common people, because he comes from that neighborhood. He comes from those poor, humble beginnings, and he wants to show the issues, the challenges of the common people of Uruguay. His plays reveal and analyze aspects of the culture, life, and history of Uruguay, and by extension of Latin American countries, especially the countries of the Southern Cone. And there you see South America, then you see in pink or purple the Southern Cone. What is called the Southern Cone of Latin America, of course, is Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Chile. And then you see Uruguay. Now, what happened is that at first his plays, he was criticized a lot at the beginning, and still sometimes, for being too localist, because it's like his plays deal a lot with the issues of Uruguayan people, with things that happen in Uruguay. He mentions places, he uses words that sometimes only a Uruguayan will know. But his plays really also appeal to a larger audience, because through his work, he magnificently depicts human conflicts that are really universal and timeless. He said that he was being criticized for his plays being local until people in other countries started to get interested in them. And then, for example, some of his plays were performed in Chicago, in New York, in Spain, and then the whole perspective changed. And then they realized that really all these people from other countries were understanding his plays perfectly well, because the conflicts are universal. The conflicts are universal, although he uses Uruguay as the theater. Here I have included a little excerpt of my interview with Dino Armas, and that was in 2014. And yes, you can probably guess that it was Chuck, my husband Chuck, who recorded that interview. And here I am at Dino Armas's house. And I'm going to play this for those who understand a little bit of Spanish, and then explain it.
Entonces existe mucho de lo autobiográfico, no solamente en esta, sino en muchas de tus obras, ¿verdad? En ese sentido, como hay tanto de autobiográfico, ¿tú piensas que hay algo catártico y casi terapéutico en las obras para ti? ¿Piensas que el acto de escribir es catártico, hasta cierto punto terapéutico, forma de elaborar no solo problemas personales, sino situaciones sociales en las que te ves involucrado, por ejemplo?
Parece que hubiéramos hablado siempre. Porque yo digo que el teatro a mí me salvó de la locura, ¿no? Y es
qué bueno, qué bueno.
De la locura en el sentido de mi familia, que existieron locos de verdad. ¿No?
Sí.
Dios,
Mira.
Tíos y todo eso.
Una forma de canalizar esa locura.
De sacar, sí.
De canalizarla,
¿no? Cuando uno escribe la obra, se exorciza. Porque no solo expresa tus sentimientos, sino lo que te rodea también, ¿no? Pero es terapéutico para mí, es sanador.
Lo sigue siendo,
sí. Porque además ahora que están analizando mis obras, que se ven en conjunto, ¿no? Que se ve una obra, otra obra, se están descubriendo que siempre es el mismo mundo, ¿no?
Sí.
El mundo de Dino, por ejemplo.
Es el mundo de Dino, sí.
Pero es sanador y es terapéutico. Y yo lo aconsejo. No, si la gente puede escribir, aunque sea lo que siente, no en forma de teatro.
No, puede ser un diario, puede ser un cuento, un diario, puede ser pensamientos aislados.
Es lo que más sirve.
Pero ayuda mucho.
Sí, porque inclusive Yo soy una persona tímida en la vida real, que eso también. No hablo tanto como en las entrevistas, hablo menos. Entonces la forma que yo tengo de expresarme es escribiendo.
Tu forma de comunicación con el mundo es más a través de la
lo que yo
escritura.
siento dentro.
Sí, sí, que si no queda ahí.
Queda ahí, y es más, a veces es pensar, ¿no?
Es malsano, sí,
Y a veces es bueno, yo qué sé. Hay que sacarlo.
Hay que sacarlo.
So basically what he's saying is that I'm asking him about the autobiographical elements in his plays. There's so many autobiographical elements in his plays, and then I ask him about that. And then I ask him, because there's so many autobiographical elements in your plays, do you think there is something almost therapeutic about writing for you, right? And that's where he laughs and he says, it seems like we have always been talking, because that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's therapy for me. It's cathartic. It's therapy. He says that actually he feels that it saved him from craziness writing, because he says there's actually people in his family who were crazy, but he says real crazy, not just, oh, they're crazy, like real crazy that ended up in an asylum. So he says, you know, this really saved me from craziness, and also the fact that he is very shy. He says he's very shy. He can't communicate very well orally, so that was the way in which he communicates with the world, and therefore it is therapeutic for him. Hola, it's therapeutic for him. And so here I have included this slide because this was this year. Last year was the interview that I did with Dino. This year I went to Uruguay again, and there was a night that we all went out. Dino, his partner Hugo, and my aunt Dora, and we went to see this play, Sus ojos se cerraron, and the play is Her Eyes Closed, and it's a very funny. It's a tragic play, but it's also a comedy, tragic comedy play where what's going on is there's a wedding going on in the neighborhood, and right next door there's a wake going on, and the people know each other. The same people go from the wedding celebration to the wake, from the wake to the wedding. There's all these different, you know, relationship problems and all kinds of funny situations that develop. But it's also, I mean, it's also serious. It's serious. You laugh, but it's serious and funny. So we went to see it, and we had a great time. And this was just now in June. So what am I going to do with this book about Dino Armas? Well, this book will include and analyze several short stories about Dino Armas that explore the following topics. It will explore the topics of immigration to Uruguay and to South America in the second part of the 19th century. There was such a big wave of migration from Spain, from Italy, from so many other countries, but mostly Spain and Italy in the second half of the 19th century. So it will include plays that deal with that. It will also include plays that deal with the military dictatorship in Uruguay that we had from 1973 to 1980. And also with emigration from Uruguay to other countries, the United States, different countries in Europe, Canada, Australia. And the reason of this emigration was in part because of the military dictatorship, and as well because of the economic situation of Uruguay also starting to not be as good as it used to be. So as you see there, I have some pictures taken during the dictatorship. I have a picture there in which there are people demonstrating in demonstration, and some immigrants from the second part of the 19th century. And something important about this is that all of the plays that I will be including here in this that we're going to be analyzing in this book are plays that have not been published before. So most of these plays are published. However, these very short plays have never been published. And talking with Dino, we kind of, we're talking and talking. We kind of both discovered that, yes, there are all these themes in common among these short plays. because there's the immigration, then there's the dictatorship, and as a consequence, the emigration. So then it was my idea to say, well, let's put all these plays together and write a book that analyzes all these different plays. So, so my book will have first a prologue that I'm going to be writing. Then the introduction, I'll write the introduction about the work of Dino Armas, the life and work of Dino Armas, and then contributors, because I want to give a voice to other people, to other Latin Americanists or experts in Latin American literature, and also actors, and also directors, and also theater critics, so that they can have a voice, so that it's not only my analysis of the plays. So we are going to include actually in the book these short plays, because they're short, we can include them, and also research essays about the different plays. So the essays will be written, some by me, some by Dr. Aida Heredia. She's a Latin Americanist from PhD from SUNY at Buffalo. The same with Dr. Dolores Rangel, also PhD from SUNY at Buffalo. Dr. Marcelo de Leon, he's worked at Berkeley for many years. Álvaro Loureiro, he's a very well-known critic, theater critic in Uruguay and journalist. And in Uruguay, everyone knows Álvaro Loureiro. And then Dr. Lourdes Martinez Puig, she has a PhD from Argentina. And then Susana Mosiaro is an actress. Is an actress, and actually this is a picture of her in one of the plays that she performed the role of a teacher in this play called Presente Señorita, that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. And then I'm going to include, of course, the interview with Dino Armas, all of the interview with Dino Armas. You saw like a little excerpt, but it's a long interview. I will include the whole thing. It's really, I think it's a really rich interview. So those are the plays that I'm going to be including in this. Those are the short plays. And Juana Maria Today and Yesterday is the one we're going to be working with in a little bit. Doña Mercedes is a very interesting one, because that is completely autobiographical. And that is how his grandmother, who was a healer, she was a healer in Cerro de Montevideo, and she healed him from his asthma, and it never came back again, ever. She took him in a boat to the Bay of Montevideo, and her remedy was that he had to spit as much spit as he could get inside of the mouth of a live fish. So the father, yeah, that was the remedy. So there they went to the bay, and they were there for a while until they found a big live fish. And they did that, and the idea was that the fish was going to take the asthma to the bottom of the sea, and it will never return again. And you know what? From that day, from being an extremely sick kid, it never, ever came back again. So there's all the magical realism that you can see in the literature of, I don't know, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, for example. Now here, you know, it's, in this play, we see it, but he says, but it's true. I mean, it's magical, but it's true. It really happened. It happened to me. And he says that in the Cerro de Montevideo, there was a doctor and there was the healer, his grandmother. And there were more people who went to see the healer than the doctor. The doctor had less clients. And then Presente Señorita has to do with teachers. He said that only once he retired, he was able to start writing about teachers. And then in that character of Presente Señorita, he puts all of his experiences, and basically she represents, there's a little bit of every teacher that he has met in his life, including him. And the other plays have to do a lot. There's some of the main topics of the other plays, like, for example, Día de Playa, Rumor de Mar, and Apenas Ayer have to do a lot with life in exile, with family dynamics, with group dynamics, media as evasion, with the dictatorship. Those three, I think, have a lot in family myths and so forth. Okay, so now Juan y María Ayer y Juan y María Hoy are the two plays we want to talk about. The ones I've chosen to talk about for the active teaching and learning demonstration of what kind of activities we can use. And in Juan y María Yesterday, a couple emigrates from Europe to Uruguay during the second part of the 19th century fleeing from the terrors of war and also poverty and looking for a better life in Uruguay. And then in Juan y Maria today, in the 20th century, a very similar couple with the same names, also Juan y Maria, they leave Uruguay to look for a better life in Europe and or United States or Canada or Australia. Those are the most popular destinations. And we're going to do a little demonstration of a part of the play, a part of each of the two, a part of Juan y Maria yesterday and Juan y Maria today.
In this land, in this place, we will have a new life. This will now be our land. This will be our home. Here we will work. Our kids will be born here.
The first one will have your name. I know it will be a boy. He will have the luck we did not have. He will be born in peace. He will grow without hearing the sounds of war and the screams of the wounded. He won't see the blood of the wounded.
My son will work with me. We will make the best of this land.
My hands and feet won't freeze anymore. Is it true that here there is never snow and there are no big mountains or earthquakes?
The highest hill that you see is there, the Cerro de Montevideo.
That one, but it's very small, Juan. Oh, look at the sky. How many stars?
These are our stars. The stars we will have forever from now on. Now we are under these stars.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And now from Juan y Maria today.
Do you know what I want to see from this plane?
What?
The Cerro Hill. Although it is small, we'll be able to see it, right?
Of course. You ask such questions.
Do these passports and tickets grant us the departure to a better world? Is it like this, Maria? Is there a better and different world waiting for us beyond the ocean?
Juan, didn't we talk and discuss all this last night until we were tired of talking?
Where this plane takes us, will be our land now. There we will have a home, and it will be his homeland too.
We will give him your name. At least he will have a very Uruguayan name. I'm taking with me my last sonogram.
I'm sure my son will teach me to use the latest generation electronic machines. He'll be able to do and to have what I was not able to have in my country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Gracias, Alberto. Gracias, gracias. So that's just to give you a little example, a little excerpt of each of the plays. And as you see in the pictures, the Cerro de Montevideo is very important because the Cerro Hill appears in all of in both of the plays. And La Fortaleza del Cerro, which is the Cerro Fortress, was built in 1839. Our independence was 1825. So, and this is a recurrent theme, and there you see other pictures in which we have, of course, immigrants in the 19th century, then people living in a plane in the 20th century. And here, just to show you how Cerro de Montevideo is so important that even if in our Uruguay shield, we have the Cerro de Montevideo, and the Cerro de Montevideo symbolizing strength. Okay, and then you have all of the other symbols there, the scale for justice and equality, the horse for freedom, the ox for abundance, the sun, unity, clarity, and truth, and the olive and laurel branches for peace and glory. But as you see, the cerro is so very important. Okay, so now I think I'm not going to have enough time to do everything I want to do, but active teaching and learning. I'm going to start to go a little faster. Active teaching and learning emphasizes students' participation in the learning process by creating an environment that continuously encourages students to apply their knowledge and their skills. Okay, so it will include activities that incorporate techniques that encourage meaningful engagement, interaction, collaboration, activities that promote communication, teamwork, critical thinking, intercultural understanding, collaboration, learner self-awareness are at the core of active teaching and learning. Students are encouraged to take an active role in the pursuit of knowledge. Instructors will design activities that are not only for extroverts, right? Not only interactive activities, but also introspective activities. And they employ strategies that appeal to all learning styles and also to all senses. As you can see there, learning styles and senses. So we can include music, as we did, videos, as we did, visuals, articles, artifacts, art, flavors, smells, graphics, charts, figures, movements. And you say, okay, so we're going to include flavors, and you don't bring anything from your country to share with us. Well, guess what? I have brought something from my country, from Uruguay, to share. And this is our typical alfajores, and you can get one and pass them. And we have some that are white with a white coating, and some that are with chocolate coating. So you like them? See? It's good? It's good? Good. I'm glad you like it. So to engage students, well, be yourself, be authentic, improvise, have a sense of humor, do all those things, make it fun, have fun as you're teaching, all those things. And here I have a activities sampler that I'm not going to have as much time as I wanted to discuss, but activity sampler for specifically this play. And different activities that we can have to teach, for example, this play, but then they can be used to teach any other play. For example, discussion questions, acting and filming. By the way, I would like all of you to have a copy of the play that I have translated in English and to English. And so if you want to pass. So we'll go over some of these activities. I'll try to go over pretty fast. First, we can have very good discussion questions like the ones that I have created. And again, these ones you can get one and pass. The plays are so short. Juana Maria yesterday and Juana Maria today. So short. And yet, look, I came up with 17 wonderful questions. So questions that we can give students to work with at home, to reflect, to do research if they want to, and then come back to class the next day, and then we can work in pairs. Then we can work in pairs. They can work in pairs the next day, sharing their what they have already thought about during all what they have already thought about, and this by themselves now in pairs. And then when they are done working in pairs, they can actually share a summary of their discussions, with the rest of the group. Okay, so there's so many questions. Well, you can read them later, but for example, are the conflicts and topics in this play universal? Why do you think the author chose the same names for the characters in both segments? Do these segments have open or closed endings? That's an important topic, the one of open endings in some plays of Dino Armas. So there's many interesting questions, and they're all there. And so other things that we can do. We can act and film the play. So in this activity, students will be divided in groups, will be divided into theater groups. And each group will have actors and will also have a director, but the director will also be the choreographer, the set decorator, will also be the one reading the annotations. And then they will prepare for the representation of the play at home, and then they will come to class and do the representation. Each group will be encouraged to include visuals, props, artwork, music, items of clothing, and we will film the representation of the play so that later on I can give feedback to them, and so that they can see themselves and find their own feedback as well. And we did that once when Alberto actually helped me with a situation like that, where we had in that case it was a debate we had, and we filmed it, and it was lots of fun. And finally, they can be encouraged to share the thoughts and the feelings triggered by the representation of the play. Other things that we can do, role play, but now role play a new scene. Okay, the role play allows students to make their own interpretation of the roles, giving them leeway to be creative and to think how they would act if confronted with certain situations. So they're going to create a whole new scene where Juan y Maria are going to be in different situations. For example, they can choose one of those three. Juan and Maria have left Uruguay and are now in the United States, and now they're going to role play a dialogue they have after the first week in the United States. Another one, Juan and Maria have been in the States for a year now, so they're going to come up with their own scene where they're going to role play a dialogue they have where they reflect about their first year in the States. And then another one, Juan and Maria have adapted to life in the United States, and after many years they're thinking about going to Uruguay to visit friends and family, and they role play a dialogue they might have as they plan their trip and express their feelings about their visit. Now, all of this can be done, of course, in Spanish, because the plays are originally in Spanish. They can also be used in other classes. They can be used, for example, in a class in English. They can be used in Latin American studies, for example, and it can be used in translation. So, so students role play the situations that they develop, and then we talk about. Then debates, another great activity that we can have. Of course, not all of these activities would be used for Juan y Maria yesterday and Juan y Maria today, because there are too many activities. I would just choose for the sampler a few, because otherwise it would be impossible. But the debates encourage students to express their ideas about complex and controversial issues, and sometimes they will need to argue positions opposite to their belief, and that is a really good exercise, a really good skill to learn. So a topic that I came up with is Juan and Maria shouldn't have left Uruguay versus Juan and Maria made the right decision by leaving Uruguay. So then they can prepare for the debate. Here I have just some explanation of how we can manage the debate in terms of the strategy and the logistics of the debate. It's sometimes important or advisable to use a rubric to have people who are actually the audience, and then the audience is given a rubric so that they can actually give them points for the different areas. For example, appearance of the team, opening statements, team members addresses remarks to the audience, opening statements, closing statements, and all that, right? So trying to be objective about the actual topic, but then interview, watch, listen, and write. So in this activity, what I do is I show the actual interview I had with author Dino Armas. So in this one, I give them ahead of time the topics that I asked about, not the actual specific questions, but the topics that I asked about, so that they know that. And then they will watch the interview 2 times. One time with an activity that will be their true-false exercise, or very simple questions to answer, or sentences to fill in the blanks with. And then the second time where they're going to actually take notes about the answers that Dino Armas gave. And then they will write a paragraph about the answers about what they learned from Dino Armas watching the interview. But finally, and this is the most important part, at the end, they will brainstorm questions they would like to ask author Dino Armas. And then as they brainstorm those questions, they will be encouraged to explain why the questions are relevant to understanding author Dino Armas, and why are the questions relevant to them as individuals. So we are going to brainstorm those questions, and we'll save them for next class, because next class we have an interactive video conference, a live Q&A with the author. And now that is going to come as a surprise to the students, because we have the questions of, well, what if we interview the author? Well, we have all these great questions. Okay, see you next time. Next time they come, we have a live Q&A with the author, and it's absolutely magnificent. And this can be done according to the size of the group via Skype, GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. It depends on the kind. Of course, Tom knows all the. It depends on the kind of size of the group and so forth. My idea with this one is to transcribe the interview to record the interview, and then to have students actually transcribe the interview in small groups, in pairs. And then for me to, of course, correct everything, put everything together, and then that interview can be used in a college journal, can be used as part of another book about Dino Armas, and it's an actual interview that is made by the students. And their names can be in that journal, in that magazine article, or in that book, and that is actually very exciting for students. Then another one is called capture capsules. A capture capsule are objects or ideas that are specific to the culture of study but are unfamiliar to students. So students can be presented with an object, with an artifact, with an idea, with a picture. In this particular case, I chose an item from Uruguay that is called mate. And mate is not only the actual gourd, but also the beverage that we drink in the mate. And again, here we have the expert, Jack. What is mate?
It's an herb comes from a mate tree.
Yes.
And it's a tea.
You can
Instead of putting the tea bag in water, you put the tea in the gourd, you pour hot water on it, and then you suck it out with a straw, with a hole in it. They won't let the herb go back.
Exactly, exactly. And that is called the bombilla. What you have there in order to drink the mate, this is called the bombilla with very, very small holes, so that way you don't get, you don't choke with the herbs. So then students, each pair will be given a different culture capsule to investigate, right? And well, in short, mate is a traditional South American infused drink similar to tea, popular mostly in Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, southern states of Brazil, and south of Chile. So students will come to class and do a presentation about their particular capture capsule. For example, we can give them pictures of the neighborhoods that are mentioned in the plays. And Cerro de Montevideo is one of them, that is a poor neighborhood, and Carrasco is another, that is the well-to-do neighborhood. And then we can give them those pictures, they can research about those neighborhoods, both of those neighborhoods are mentioned in the play, and then they can come to class and share what they have. They can prepare a PowerPoint or whatever they want to present the topic. Funza, for example, that's mentioned in the play. Funza is a factory that makes tires and gloves and all kinds of things, and so they can investigate about Funza. They can investigate about the working conditions in Uruguay and about strikes. That is a strike and a demonstration by Funza employees, for example. So they can investigate about things that either are mentioned in the play or things that are very common in the country, like alfajores. And another possible culture capsule, beef and carne. They talk a lot about beef in the plays because that's what we have the most. We have beef, and we have the best in the world. Well, they say Argentina, it's both are good. Both are the best in the world. It's the same pastures, the same cows. So, but yeah, so beef, carne, parrilla, asado. What do all those terms mean? They're all related to beef, okay? And there are some pictures of how we cook the beef, and so students, for example, can investigate that, can come to class, have a presentation about that. In that particular picture, there's Chuck and I having beef, parrilla, asado in one of our favorite restaurants in Montevideo, right? That is in La Perdiz. That is in La Perdiz. Another possible activity, time machine. Working in small groups, students prepare a presentation about the effects that different migratory waves had in the countries of the Southern Cone. and each group can decide to talk about or to investigate or research one particular cultural aspect. Like, for example, it could be the customs, it could be the language, it could be the music, it could be the literature, it could be the food, and they can bring food to class. It can be the... And that's gnocchi, exactly. And that's gnocchi because I tell you, in Uruguay, our heritage is Spanish and Italian for the most part. About 50% of the population, we have Italian heritage. My last names, Toletti, Altieri, Tamaro, all Italian. So a lot of our dishes are not only beef, but a lot of Italian dishes. And gnocchi is one of them. And we have a custom in Uruguay that I'm going to tell you, and that is the 29th of every month. The 29th of every month is the day when we should all eat gnocchi. And then the custom is that we eat gnocchi, and there's a custom that comes from somewhere in Italy. Some immigrants brought that custom. The idea is that you get some money, you get some bills or some coins, and you put them under the plate. And that is supposed to bring good luck monetarily. So different time machine activities that we can do, research in different parts, and then, for example, each group can be required to prepare an outline of the presentation and to use either pictures, music, video, PowerPoint, Google Earth, things like that. And then an intertextuality exercise. Of course, intertextuality is the interrelationship between texts, especially works of literature, the way that similar or related texts influence, reflect, or differ from each other. As we were talking, for example, about Dino Armas and Tennessee Williams, for example, he definitely influenced his plays. We can see it not only in the topics, but also in the style. So there's different types of intertextuality. It can be the style, it can be the topics. In this case, we could, of course, talk about the topics, like, for example, immigration, other plays that deal with immigration. And then students can research and explain first in their own words what is intertextuality, then and the different types of intertextuality, then identify, analyze, and explain examples of intertextuality between Juana Maria yesterday, Juana Maria today, and plays, movies, short stories that they are familiar with or they need to research. And in case they can't come up with any ideas, we can give them some and say, well, look, there are these read aloud plays about immigration. There's this book called Rowing to America, has 9 one-act plays all about immigration, and then they can do their own intertextuality exercise if they cannot find anything. But intertextuality is not only the topic; it can be, of course, the style, it can be the language. There are many aspects of intertextuality. And finally, we would have a composition. Of course, not all of these activities are done because it would take the whole course. It would be a whole semester on Juan y Maria. We're going to be like too much. But we have to choose a few. But at the very end, I like to do the composition because now students are ready. The students have exercised critical thinking, have analyzed the plays, and now they're ready to go one step further in their analysis. Examples of possible topics to choose from. In the case of Juan y Maria, could be understanding Southern Cone migratory movements through Juan y Maria yesterday and Juan y Maria today. Universal themes versus local themes that we talked about in Dino Armas' work, how at first he was criticized for being too local, and then, they started to discover more how, well, the conflicts are universal. We're all people here and there. And then another topic, up and down the cerro, parallelisms and differences between the two Juan y Maria yesterday and Juan y Maria today. Migration and dictatorship in the place of Dino Armas. Now that's the topic of my book, but they can use the book to do their research now and write, once the book is done, and write a composition about it. And then an analysis of autobiographical elements in the place of Dino Armas. For some of these things they can use, for some of these topics, the interview that, for example, the interview that I did with Dino Armas, and also the interview that they did when they did the live Q&A with Dino. And so now they have a wealth of information about Dino, about the country, and about the history, and they can do some further research. So those are the 10 examples that I have come up with just for a little play, for a very short play that is Juan y Maria yesterday and Juan y Maria today. It can be considered 2 short plays. It's really 1 play with 2 segments. But yeah, if you have a chance also, all the different questions with a play so short like that one, we can come up with so many interesting questions and to work with, to discuss, so many interesting topics, so many interesting activities. So, and if we can do that with a little play like that, we can do it with so much, right? And we can use some of these activities that I have designed for Juan y Maria yesterday and today, and we can apply them to other plays, to other stories, to other short stories, and so forth. So that is my presentation to you today. And oh, of course, the composition would have, students would be encouraged to write an introduction, an argument, a conclusion, all that stuff that is normal for a composition. And that's it. And now conclusion and comments. If you have any comments about, we have taken a magnifying glass into some aspects of my culture. And that was my objective today, to talk about Dino Armas, his work, a little bit about my country. And today is a special day because today is September 17th. Now, anyone knows why it's special today and why some of today, yesterday, a few days. Chuck? Very good. Hispanic Heritage Month. Hispanic Heritage Month goes from September 15th to October 15th. So it is actually fitting that I do this presentation today about a topic that has to do with Hispanic America, right? And check in your calendars and in your TCC website for activities that have to do with Hispanic Heritage Month. And that would be wonderful. So yeah, so we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month today with author Dino Armas and alfajores. And thank you so much for stopping by today. Gracias.